but I know I'm going to call for the pledge. So if everyone
Okay.
can rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the
To the
United
flag
States
of the United States of America
and to
and
the
to the
republic
republic
for which it
for
stands,
which it stands,
one
one
nation,
nation,
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
and
with
justice.
liberty
Justice for
and
all.
justice for all.
All right, Stace, I don't have the agenda.
Okay.
The
You want
other,
me to just read the items then?
yep, please.
Okay. Approval of the minutes from February 17th, 2021.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
Okay. Chairman's comments.
I'll pass.
Finance member comments, citizen comments.
I'll pass.
I think, is there somebody in the audience that has their hand up?
The first one in is Joan Walker.
Thank you.
Hi, Joan Walker, 39 Stepping Stone Lane. First of all, I want to say thank you all for all the hard work that you're doing in this difficult time. I know it's difficult to get together and debate these things, especially over Zoom. I participated or watched the workshop, so I do have a couple of comments. I want to put on the record that I'm in favor of both the current Board of Ed budget and the current Board of Selectmen budget. This is a reflection of a 2.43 increase, which I think is very reasonable and conservative, and considering the changes that will need to be made in services to support our community because of the impact of COVID. I really want to talk about the discussion at the end of the Board of Finance right now, real quickly, or the workshop. If the budget that is presented to the town from the Board of Finance does not include Board of Ed for $59,372,037, then that's a cut. There's no way to change that. You guys were debating about, financing and funding and things like that, but a reduction of that budget would be a reduction. I want to remind the Board of Finance that the Madison Public Schools has paid back overages from their budget years. Last 9 years, it's almost 2.5 million. And last year alone, 670,000 when the buildings were closed at the beginning of the pandemic. This has helped build the undesignated fund balance to where it is right now. The Board of Ed has always been a responsible board who balances the needs of students with being very fiscally conservative. And this isn't the case in many towns, where at the end of the year, they see the money, they move it, they spend it, and nothing remains and is brought back to the town. So I think we have to commend years and years of boards of educations for setting a precedent in Madison that is followed to this day. So under the Board of Finance's own rules, the unassigned reserve, the town's basically rainy day fund, should be at least 10% of the total combined annual operating expenditures. That's what's helped Madison earn the AAA bond rating. The reserve is there to be used in time of emergency, like in 2011 and 2013, Fillmore, we can remember 2 hurricanes, 1 blizzard, we needed the rainy day fund. And then the reserve fund was then built back up when reimbursement came from FEMA. However, from 2018 to 2020, the fund has grown from a little over 10 million to a little over 16.5 million. I understand that the Board of Finance wants to plan for the future impact of bonding. However, growth of this reserve fund to be more than 20.2% if you don't include debt, and it's up to 18.5 if you do include the debt as far as your total budget. This is significant. Some of these funds should be used to reduce that 2.3% if you feel it's unacceptable to the town voters, which we heard. People are hurting. I get that. But use the tools that are in your toolbox. Do not go back and reduce the budget of the Board of Ed. If they get the money in from their grants, and if they have a plan to use those funds, then allow them to use those funds. If it is going to be used in this fiscal year and the grant money will supplement an operational expenditure that is allowed, those funds will be returned as they've shown year in and year out. They will do it. If more is needed, which potentially it is because no one knows the real impact of having the impact on kids. We do know that emotionally, there's been a huge impact. We know this, we've seen it. Anyone who has a child, anyone who's been around people with children, any parent, we're all impacted ourselves. If we as adults who understand the impact of what's going on around us are having difficulties, let's face it, these kids are going to take some time, and that's not going to turn around in 1 or 2 or 3 summer camps. This is going to be a long-term issue that we are going to have to deal with. So I urge you, I implore you to please use the unassigned fund in this unprecedented time. That's what it's there for. It's an ongoing pandemic. Still is, we're still in the middle of it. Hopefully it's going to reduce down, but help your constituents without hurting the education and town services and giving them the flexibility to use and choose how these grant monies are used. Thank you for your consideration.
Next to talk is Maureen Lewis.
Hello, everybody. I also would like to thank you for all your work and all your time and greatly appreciate it. I'm here today to ask you to please approve the Board of Education budget as it's currently presented with the 1.37% increase. Please allow the Board of Education budget to go to referendum without any changes. I was very pleased to learn of the COVID relief grants that the Board of Education is expecting. That's terrific news because our staff and students have suffered tremendous losses, as we all agree, during this pandemic. We do not fully know the extent of those losses to our schools and to our students yet. And I ask you to please approve the budget as is to give our administrators the time they need to analyze what is needed and to develop a comprehensive plan for our schools and our students. Please do not consider the COVID relief grants at this time as an opportunity to reduce the Board of Education budget now. It's just too soon. The Board of Education budget as it stands now is a very thoughtful and lean operating budget, and I ask you to please put this budget forward as is. If the Board of Education ends up with excess funds, then by all means, those funds should be returned. However, it's just too soon to know. The COVID relief grant money is not yet in hand, and we need time for our Madison Public Schools administrators and staff to develop a comprehensive plan for COVID recovery for all of our students. And I was also on the meeting just before this and listened, and I know that I probably said some words in there that are hot buttons, but, and I don't mean it that way. What I'm asking is to please put the budget forward as it is, and please leave the grants where they are with the Board of Education to make the plans for those. And I think that I respect what was said in the meeting where they said, hey, if there's a crisis and you need more money, we'll all agree to give more money. But that's way different than the superintendent and the administrators having all of this grant money to be planned for and put together a proactive comprehensive plan for our students. So it's a lot different than, because I think they'll make do with whatever they have and we won't end up in a crisis, but we could do so much more for our students if they have the flexibility to have all of that money there. And as a taxpayer in Madison, and my children aren't even in the schools anymore, I respect and appreciate that you're trying to keep the mill rate down, but I also agree that that's what the unassigned funds are for. And I think there's also a very good chance that the Board of Education will have excess funds that will come back that can replenish that unassigned fund. So that's my position on it. And I thank you very much for your time today.
Thanks, Maureen. Good luck, kid.
Ms. Horvath is next.
Am I on? Gus Horvath. You're nodding, Justin. I am on.
Yes,
You're
yes.
on,
Okay.
Gus.
I didn't tune into your workshop, so I'm not quite sure
All right, Dave?
what was discussed, and I don't really mean to talk about that type of
True.
thing. But I think one of the things that the Board of Finance sometimes fails to think about when they're just reviewing increases in the spending plan is the final number as to what's going to be raised by taxes, which includes reducing the impact of any increase by additional grand lists. You're going to pick up about $600,000 in that as an example. But the point is, as you do these considerations about whether to move money or whether to increase or decrease budgets, I think you should ask Stacy. Yeah, I see you crossing her eyes now. I think you should ask Stacy to determine what the cost to the taxpayer would be for each $100,000 of their assessed value. So you know what the impact is specific by the decisions you're going to make or not make. And I think to make some of these things, you want to possibly reduce the impact on taxpayers, as you did last year, to zero. And I don't know whether that's your goal this year or not, but the point is you don't know what the impact is of what you're talking about unless you reduce it to the point as to what is the exact impact on the taxpayer per $100,000. Right, Stace? You've heard this speech before, right?
Yes, Gus, we have, that is part of the workshop, looking at the mill rate calculation and what would offset the expenditures from revenue, as well as an increase in the grand list.
No one else has their hand raised.
Okay, any board member comments? No one? Okay. Where are we? Go ahead, Stace, what's next?
Okay, item number 5, discuss and take action to approve a donation from Madison Little League of sideline fencing at J.C. Field, valued at $6,664.
Someone to move it?
So moved.
Second? One more? Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 And thank you to the
Opposed?
little, thank you. to the
Yes.
little league.
Thank you very much for that. It's wonderful.
It'll be a great,
Much.
it'll be a great addition.
Good. I'm glad. That's awesome. We really
Thanks.
need those kinds of donations and they've been great. Okay, next, Stace.
Okay, item number 6, discuss and take action to approve a donation from Neighbor to Neighbor in the amount of $10,000 for the COVID relief fund.
So moved.
Second.
Second,
So I'm just going to say that they have gone above and beyond during this pandemic, and I continue to be amazed at how they support this community. And they are literally a godsend during these times for these families. So I just want to say again, thank you so much for this. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
Okay, number 7, discuss and take action to approve a donation from Neighbor to Neighbor in the amount of $10,000 for Madison Youth and Family Discretionary
Awesome.
Fund.
Awesome. So moved. Second,
second.
discussion? All in
Again,
favor?
Awesome. Fantastic. Yep.
It is. All in favor? Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. Thank you again so much. Next.
Okay, item number 8, discuss and take action to approve a resolution to recommend the authorization of bonds to refund in whole or in part various of the town's outstanding bond issues.
Need it moved?
I'll move that.
Second?
Hey,
Somebody second. Thank you. And I believe Bill Lindsay's here, Stace.
Yep.
Bill's here.
Hey, Bill.
I am. Good evening.
Any questions? Do you want to, Bill, just go over it with us, or do you want to answer questions? How do you want to handle it?
I can go over it real quickly if that's
Okay. Yeah, that'd be good. Thank you.
Yeah, so what we have here, so we've got an opportunity to refinance about 3.8 million of prior bonds. Specifically, this was an issue from 2012, which was at the time, an advance refunding of a couple different issues. The only one that's currently outstanding is the 2010 issue that financed the Griswold Airport property purchase. So basically that we'd be refinancing those bonds for a second time here. It's what we refer to as a current refunding. So we are at actually the call date. So as a reminder, when we sell tax exempt municipal bonds, they're not callable at any point in time. So they're a little different than, say, your home mortgage. We sell them with an optional call feature, and it's at the town's option only. And what we do is we set a specific date in the future, and we say the town has the option to call these bonds in and refinance them after that date. And so we're at that point in time where we're able to do that. And so we'll talk about the savings in a second. I just remind you of one other thing, that in the Jobs Act from 2017, the IRS removed the ability for state and local governments to do an advance refunding on a tax exempt basis. So historically, back in 2012, when we refinanced these bonds the first time, we were able to do it in advance of the call date. We're no longer able to do that. So that's why we're looking at these as a current refunding. And more to the point, why we're not looking at other bond series, because those other bond series were not at the call date yet. And in order to perform or undertake an advance refunding, it would have to be on a taxable basis, which would raise the cost of funds by about a full percentage point. So right now, we're only able to refinance this 2012 series. In terms of the economics of the transaction, the prior bonds have an average coupon of 4%, and we'd be looking to refinance these new bonds at about 1%. So there's quite a difference in the interest rate. In terms of the savings to the town, it would be kind of cash flow basis, about $200,000 in total. The bonds mature in fiscal 30. So we're looking at, roughly a 9-year period at about $22,000 a year on average, beginning in this upcoming year, 21-22. We tend to look at those savings on a present value basis, and the GFOA's Government Finance Officer Association's best practice recommends a minimum of 3% net present value savings. The net present value savings for this opportunity would be 5.2% currently. So we're well in excess of that best practice. And if we've already, the statute that governs refundings is a little bit different than the statute for new bond issues. So whereas we come to you, this board first for new money issuance, the statute for refunding says that it only needs to be done by the legislative body, which in this case is the Board of Selectmen. So we spoke with the Board of Selectmen and received their approval back on March 9th. And then this is the next meeting after that. So we're bringing this to your attention and hope to get your blessing. But, just so we're all clear, the
They don't need
statute-
it.
Well, I mean, we want it, but yeah, it's the Board of Selectmen technically. So
It is. It's not ours.
Does this have to go to a town meeting?
no, it does not. No, it's just the Board of Selectmen.
All right.
Bill, I happened to listen to the Board of Selectmen meeting, and when you were talking about this, can you just share, which I like to hear? I think we're not extending the term nor increasing the balance, obviously. Can you just explain that? the
Yeah,
benefit
yeah,
of the
thank
group?
you, Justin. Yeah, so that's both correct. We're not allowed to extend the maturity statutorily. So we're not extending the maturity. And then in terms of the par amount, because of two factors. The first being the town's excellent bond rating. And then the second is the, kind of market preference for couponing, with the expectation that we're in a rising interest rate environment and that in the near term rates are going to go up. Investors are willing to pay a premium to get a higher coupon rate. And what that means is that money, they're willing to pay more than 100 cents on the dollar, and as much as, if you can believe it, 130 cents on the dollar. And so that additional amount or is a funding source, we refer to it as premium, goes into the transaction, and it helps reduce the borrowing amount on the new bonds. So the borrowing amount on the prior bonds, if you round up, call it 3.8 million, we would be issuing about 3.3 million. So we're reducing the town's debt burden by about $500,000 with this transaction as well. And so I think, that's a significant amount as well. Not that your debt is high to begin with, but it'll be $500,000 lower after this transaction.
Wow. That's great.
And in terms, I guess, final thing is in terms of timing, I think looking at the calendar, it would probably be like a May issuance. Would be the time that we'd be coming to market. Late April, May, beginning of May.
Good.
If I
I
could
think
just-
that's great. Thank you. I think it's
If I
awesome.
could just add to that,
Yeah.
within the budget that the Board of Selectmen move forward, there is a reduction in debt service for $20,000.
Great.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for coming, Bill. I appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
All right, thanks, everyone. Have a good night.
Yep.
Do we have a motion out there yet?
No,
Yeah,
we don't have to, do we?
yeah, there's a motion by Jude and second by Justin.
Oh, so we do have to vote on it.
Yeah, we put a motion on there. Technically you don't, but historically we have. So
Okay.
we just
All
wanna-
right, all in favor of reducing the interest,
Aye.
saving money for the town? All opposed to saving money for the town? All right, John, I'm assuming that hand is that you are for and not against?
Yes,
Okay, good.
I was for,
All right.
yes. I even said it too. I was adjusting something, but thank you, Madam Chair.
You're, all right, just make sure. All righty, next, Stace.
Okay, item number 9, discuss and take action to approve a line item transfer request in the amount of $180,608.28 for salary reconciliations into town departments.
So moved.
Second,
A second.
discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Deb.
Deb.
Go ahead.
Okay, item number 10, discuss and take action to approve a special appropriation request in the amount of $42,000 to purchase electronic message boards for the Emergency Management Department to display public safety announcements, determined during the budget workshop cycle of the Board of Selectmen, pending final Board of Selectmen approval and approval at the annual budget reconciliation town meeting.
So moved.
Need it moved. Second,
I'll second.
discussion. Does anyone, just, you had a Fillmore, didn't you?
Yeah, I had a question or comment, I guess. I believe that there's some FEMA money possibly from this business a year ago that could cover this. Am I correct in that understanding?
Yeah,
So-
the intention is we wanted to get this done now because we're going to need the signs for the start of beach season, which is really by May. But the intention is we're going to be trying to get FEMA money to pay for most of this. But we just wanted to move forward to at least have the funds available to make the purchase, because we're renting some right now and we're also borrowing some. So, we had to make a decision here to move forward on the purchase.
Okay.
Are these those signs that you see every now and again along the road that, that the highway department has every now and again? Is it that kind of a sign?
Yeah, if you take the Hammonasset connector,
Yeah.
and you see the COVID announcement signs there, that's basically what those are. Right now, we're actually renting some and then we're borrowing some. So we feel that we just need two in our coffers to use for emergencies, so we don't have to rely on other places.
So you would move them around and change the message
Yeah.
depending on what you're doing. You know?
Yep. And they're Wi-Fi, which is kind of nice. So you're not
Yeah,
having to
good.
physically go out and change them.
All right.
Good. Okay.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. What was that?
Sam, I think Sam's trying to say something.
I think he was
He does
asking if you need him.
No, I'm good. It's,
It passed, Sam. Don't worry.
Pass, Sam, don't worry.
I'm not worried about it.
All right, go ahead, Stace.
Okay, item number 11, review financials. No questions, awesome, yay me.
Good. Go
Item
ahead.
number 12, liaison reports and report from first selectman.
Any liaison reports? Go ahead, Fillmore.
I've got a couple.
How did you know?
Yeah, the library, this will be very quick. They appear to be on target for their fundraising and so on. But there, more importantly, there was on the pension committees, the police commission had a meeting the other morning to grant a disability pension to one of our officers who had resigned. I think in January, he'd been on the force for 13 years, age 35, and the disability was what I'll call PTSD. He, over the course of 13 years, he would maybe once a year, he would come upon some death, suicide, murder, or just somebody who died in their home. And he was unable to handle that. And the other, an occasional, also some automobile accidents and so forth. And so he was able to be evaluated and was granted a disability pension. He will be receiving about $3,000 a month for the next 20 years until his normal retirement date at age 55, in which case it would drop down to the regular retirement of about $1,000 a month. And so this will, I'm not sure how that will impact the police pension fund, but it may have. This is, I don't think the actuaries count on disability pensions of this magnitude when they're doing the actuarial report. So we may in another year be getting an impact on that. So that's all I had.
Okay. Anyone else? Peg, you're up.
Okay, well, I think just two highlights. One is I'll be presenting at our board on Monday. We've been in a lot of discussions with the state about Hammonasset, and I know a lot of the community has been asking about that, about how we're going to tackle all the issues that we've seen grow over the years, not just because of COVID, just also because of the Passport to the Parks program. So we've been advocating strongly to get some sort of reimbursement to the town for public safety resources that we have to provide to the state park. We've also been talking to them about how to alleviate some of the demand, and control traffic and things like that. We actually did a presentation to DEEP. We've had many discussions with our representatives. And so we're hopeful that we might actually, we're trying to work collaboratively with them. They get that there's a problem now and they've heard it loud and clear. So we're trying to be proactive and offer solutions. So we're advocating for a number of things right now. And I'll be presenting that on Monday at the Board of Selectmen meeting. The other thing is obviously the American Rescue Plan, which I know was talked about in relating to the Board of Ed. The town is going to be benefiting from that plan also significantly. And I've been working internally about putting together a proposal that is these funds are going to be available to be used through 2024. There is going to be a lot more detailed guidance coming out of the Treasury Department on how they can be used. And there's a lot of specifics tied to it. And although there are COVID related things that they talk about, they're also, this is really meant for economic development and for its stimulus and also community support. So we're going to be working closely. Ultimately, I want to bring a proposal to the board that is put together between town operations as well as our long-term recovery committee, which is something we'd set up in the beginning of this pandemic that has representatives from civic groups, churches, educational communities. And so we're going to try to put together a plan that takes this money so that the entire community benefits in some way from this in different shapes and forms. And this will be an ongoing dialogue so that people understand how the funds are being used. And, you know, the Board of Selectmen ultimately will come up with a plan that it endorses, and we will work with the Board of Finance on that also. So that everybody understands, you know, where the funds are going and that the priorities are what the community wants the priorities to be. So that'll be an undertaking we'll be starting over the next month. But obviously, until we get the details, the devil is always in the details, as we know, about how we can use it. You know, it's just going to be more of an academic exercise for us right now. So those are the kind of the two major issues going on right now. And then the third, obviously, is just vaccination continue. The state has now changed again the criteria. We're going to be continuing to provide vaccination services at town campus for the foreseeable future on Thursdays. So more information will be coming out about those clinics. But we've been very successful. We've pretty much vaccinated our entire school staff and childcare providers in the community. We've had a huge success rate. Literally almost 100% of all our 75 and older population has been vaccinated, and a huge majority of our 65 plus. So we can be grateful for that. And then we just hope that we can get everybody as quickly as we can, you know, by May, so we can open up and start having a little normalcy by the summer. And I know a lot of people are starting to make plans. So, so that's my update.
Thank you. Any questions for Peggy? Okay, next.
Citizen comments.
Any
Please jump in
citizens
there.
comments?
Sorry, I was on mute. God.
All right, Fillmore covered for you.
Fillmore does it all. Don't worry.
He does. He's like the Energizer Bunny, which I was going to say, which is an image that will haunt me for hours now. Anyone? Nope.
No.
All right. I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. All right. We're out of this one. Go back to the other one.
Oh, we're
Are
going
we
back?
going back to the other
We're
one?
going back to the other one.
All right.
All right.